Okay, everybody, welcome to tonight's meeting, Environmental Services Committee, 8th of October 2025. Just some apologies. I have myself here, Councillor Dermot Brown, and I think Councillor Debbie Coyle may be joining online shortly. Is there any other apologies? Councillor Hawkes?
Councillor Paul Robinson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor McGrath?
Councillor Adam Gannon.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. If there's no other apologies, then we're going to declarations of interest. Anybody? All right. Yeah, just to say as well, the minutes and the confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 3rd of September have been signed. So if there's any declarations of interest, I'll move on to the Community and Wellbeing Directorate reports. John Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. The first report is in relation to the dual language. There were 10 roads which were assessed for dual language. 8 of them met the criteria in relation to our policy, and the dual language is included in Table 3 of the report. So, Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves the installation of dual language signage for the roads listed in Table 3. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Councillor Maguire.
Gormaghity, happy to propose the recommendations, Chair. And just further to that, I have a proposal to make in relation to our Irish language policy. I'm aware that the policy now is quite a considerable age, and I believe the times have moved on, and given some of the nuances that are about to happen, hopefully with the potential commissioner being in place very soon, that maybe it's a good time to review our policy to make sure that we're up to speed and maybe commissioner ready and everything else, so that we're well prepared for any changes. Pose that, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, Chair. Yes, it is. It is on the timetable for. In fact, we've had discussions with Forest na Gaeilge in relation to the review of the policy. In fact, very detailed discussions with them. We were in fact waiting until the commissioner would be appointed and maybe get their input into it also. But maybe if that is something which the council don't wish, we want to go ahead before the commissioner is formally appointed, then that's something we can take forward. Although it probably will be 1 or 2 months, it will be 2 months probably before it comes before committee here.
Thanks for that update, John. I'm happy enough that there's some work happening in the background, but I'm aware that there was workshops, etc., in the proposals for the original policies that we come up with. It's just in case there's anything that we as councillors might want to potentially a workshop, if at all possible.
Chair, that would be in the plans to have a workshop, before it comes to committee here, with members. Yes.
Very good. Margaret.
Okay, can I get a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Little, thank you. Will you also second the noting of the paper? Thank you. Is that all agreed then? Councillor McGrath wants to come in.
Thank you, Chair. No, I was going to support that as well, but I just want to, ask John about, we had new signage there put up on Gortna Yarn and Ergana Road there recently. They were just put up there, and I see they've been vandalised with paint. And I'm just wondering, John, is there any update on costs of repairing signs recently, or is there any costs available for up-to-date, the signs that are vandalised? Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Chair, we're aware of the damage. In fact, it was just reported to us earlier today by another member. So we're aware of the vandalism, Gortna Garden, and I think there was also signs damaged out in this Naharney road. I suppose as members be aware, we do have vandalism across the estate on an ongoing basis. When dual language signs are damaged, we add them to the damaged sign register. Our staff will then attend and undertake any repairs as quickly as possible. It depends obviously on the nature of the damage, the vandalism, whether it's repairs that we can do ourselves or if we need to order up new signs, nameplates, whatever. But then we'll get those installed as quickly as possible. All of those instances of vandalism are also then reported to the PSNI as suspected hate crime, and we will be in regular contact with the PSNI where we identify instances of that vandalism across the estate, and they will then take a note of that in terms of their own operational arrangements.
Thank you, John. Okay, councillor McLaughlin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Want to condemn any forms of vandalism. It's council property and it costs money to have it replaced and or fixed. So anybody engaged in that carry on. There's no place for it, and they should respect the democratic processes that this council holds. I'm wondering, we're coming near the end of the process where I'm sure the vast majority of these requests for dual signage is coming to an end. And I'm wondering if this policy is going to be under review. Yet again, we have Limekiln Meadows as an example. There's one person on the electoral register and they had absolutely no interest. So whilst never having been a detective during my police career, I'm assuming they didn't request it, so it was an elected rep. And I'm just wondering, that probably cost the council £1,000 to go through that process. So I'm wondering perhaps maybe it's time that the policy was reviewed in the fact that it should be residents and not councillors who are involved in this process.
John.
Chair, yeah, that policy is also due for renewal in the coming months. And it's something that we have undertaken to take through council because there have been a number of suggestions in relation to the policy itself. So yes, it will be coming before members in the coming months, 3 or 4 months, I would say, before it is here. And just in relation maybe to the first statement of the numbers that are coming to the end, we have quite a few that are still well over 100 roads names, and I'd say near 150 that still need to be processed. So it will take quite a while. It will take at least another 1.5 to 2 years in order to get to the bottom of the list.
Do you want to come back in, councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I forgot to mention our normal dissent towards the dual language policy that the council currently has.
Noted. Okay then. So can I take that both of those are proposed and seconded with the dissent of the UP and the DUP? Councillors? Okay, everyone agreed? Good. Right, and so the next part of the paper is the report on street naming and numbering, paper B. John Boyle again.
Thank you, Chair. Two streets for naming, one at Drumshean in Lisnarrick, and the suggested name is Drumshean Manor. The townland, it's in the townland of Drumshean. And the manor is just because it is beside the old Castle Archdale, or not far from Castle Archdale Manor. So it does meet the requirements of our policy. So it is proposed that Drumshean Manor is used for the street name. The second one is at Drumawill in Enniskillen. The developer has put forward 2 names, and again, it's proposed that the name Drumridge Heights meets our policy. It doesn't include the name of the townland, only part of it, Drum, and Ridge, meaning the meaning of Drumawill. So therefore, Chair, it's proposed Drumridge Heights for the proposed name, and Chair, for the recommendation that the name Drumshean Manor for the development in Lisnarrick and Drumridge Heights for the development in Enniskillen is approved.
Thank you, John. Councillor Maguire?
Agor Margaret Caherly. Say John knows exactly what I'm about to say. Drum means ridge. A ridge means ridge. Drum Ridge, to me, is gobbledygook nonsense. And it's not the first development name that has come before here that gives no understanding or no grasp of what actually the meaning of original townlands were or weren't. And I've said it before in this chamber, if there's a developer out there that needs any assistance, I am quite willing to give my help or refer them to people that might be able to give them a hand with translations that make some sort of sense. But Drum and Ridge together, like it should be hyphenated or something. I think it's two different languages, one mean the exact same thing. That's a nonsense, like. And if we're going to continue to name developments across our district like that, it's a bit of a, well, it's an insult to the beautiful names that we have, the historic names that make a lot of sense to people, and you could spend a lifetime translating them, as we've all talked about before. But having said that, it's gone through our processes, it ticks boxes, but again, I have to voice my disappointment at that. Drum and Ridge together there. So happy enough to propose the recommendations. That being said, Chair.
Tommy, Councillor McCloughery.
Thank you. Obviously, I'll give way to Councillor Maguire's knowledge of Irish, and the two words been the same. But Drumshane Manor is, Drumshane's a well-known townland in the Snarrick and the manor, so that fits well. So I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor McCloughery. Do you want to come back on there? Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. If everyone's in agreement? Yeah, great, thank you. So now we are on to Environment and Place Directors Reports, and over to John News. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, first report this evening here is a draft response to the DAERA consultation on the setting of Northern Ireland's fourth carbon budget. That's covering the period 2038 to 2042. So the purpose of the report obviously is to set out the draft response. The consultation period closes on the 17th of November. The draft response has been prepared in the context of the various council plans, policies, procedures, particular the community plan, the corporate plan 2024 to 2028, and then other plans that are appropriate, the local development plan, the climate sustainable development strategy, and all of those consultation documents are in the decision time document library. The purpose of the fourth carbon budget is to bring Northern Ireland to an annual baseline reduction of 77% compared to that 1990 figure. And so DAERA have a requirement to set that so that they're on a consistent trajectory to meet the statutory targets for 2040 and 2050. You'll see within the paper, it's paragraph 2.2, that while we've noted that the overarching response is to be supportive of the objectives of the fourth carbon budget as set out, that response has been tempered by just a concern that the ambition that's articulated needs to be matched by delivery and particular adequate funding coming from central government. And I suppose in particular within the report, you'll see it, paragraph 2.3, we've highlighted a number of key issues that we think within our draft response that we feel that DAERA should take account of in finalising the fourth carbon budget. And so those are, I said not to go through them all, but it's around the targets that they need to be achievable. And a lot of the targets at the minute seem to be predicated on very early interventions to keep in track with the 77% reduction. I suppose that early reduction in those years 2038 to 2042 is only going to be possible if there are coherent policies within government and strong departmental coordination. And I suppose that the more delays there are in the transition to that position, that will impact on the achievement of the overall target. So I think that just that realism needs to be factored into the fourth carbon budget. We've also reflected the view, and council have talked about this before, that all sectors must contribute fairly, and in particular that there needs to be protections for vulnerable groups, for rural communities and future generations in the development of carbon budgets. recognising that that there are equally opportunities in terms of green jobs and innovation for those younger generations. Some of the particular risks that we've highlighted within the response are the risk of upfront costs for households, for farmers and small businesses, unless there's appropriate grants and fair funding to support them. The transition challenge that will arise within the fossil fuel sector, and I suppose the flip side of that is that also with appropriate investment from central government has investment opportunities for renewables, farming innovation, and green industries. And I think actually that point was also made in the chamber last night. From a social and rural perspective, that certainly a transition to a reduction in carbon emissions has an opportunity to deliver healthier and more resilient communities. But on the other side, there is a risk that without appropriate supports and for a transition, or just transition really, that there's a risk of deepening inequalities. And then on the delivery challenge side, that the government ambition should be matched by delivery, and specifically long-term ring-fence funding, strong monitoring and accountability arrangements, just transition measures for vulnerable households, and then finally community involvement to help identify, shape and implement those solutions. So members, the draft response, as I say, it's within a template format, is set out within Appendix 1 of the report. So the recommendation, the Council notes the contents of this report and approves the draft response for submission in advance of the closing date on the 17th of November 2025.
Okay, thank you, John. And Councillor McCloughery?
Sorry. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, John, for the report. And I'm going to go to Councillor Green's famous line. When does the baseline start? Because if we look over the last 5 years, fossil fuels, I know the vast majority of the people have started using less because of the cost. And the same with farmers and fertilizer, they're using less, not because they're just thinking of the environment. It's purely the cost. They've become more efficient, and all of this doesn't seem to be balancing, with what we're hearing. So we don't actually know. There doesn't seem to be any sort of rolling thing to say this is where we're at every year. They're making these aspirations as to what we can do. And we also, as a council, we have an even more robust dateline to follow. And I'm just wondering, maybe if we could have an annual balance sheet ourselves to see how we're getting on, so that we can compare it to what the government's actually expecting of us within the coming years. But I think they don't do our district fair in the fact that people in the rural areas have had to make a less an impact. I don't think that's reflected. And given that we don't actually have a base, we never actually know the baseline. So we're always sort of struggling to find out how much we are actually reducing. But apart from that, thank you, John. I'm happy to propose we go with this.
Thank you, Councillor. And do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Feely?
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Crawford, do you want to come in there?
No, I was just going to second that, but I know it's not easy keeping your eye on everything, but it's just my hand was up there. So that's okay, it's fine.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crawford. Okay, so that's all agreed then. We'll move on to 5.2, consider report on estates matters. Over to John again, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, this is the monthly report on various estates matters. So, a number of items in the report for decision and a number also for information. So, for decision, first of all, relates to Gortin Glen Forest Park. As members will be aware, it's held under a 20-year nominal fee licence and a 20-year annual rental of that has been £2,500 since 2019 from Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. So under the terms of that lease, the LPS has completed a 5-yearly rent review and determined an increase in the annual rental from £2,500 to £3,000 per annum. So it's recommended that that's accepted for the 5-year period, 25th of March 2024 to the 24th of March 2029. Next then, in relation to lands at Irvinstown Road and Enniskillen in July 2023, Council approved the disposal lands at Irvinstown Road in Enniskillen, comprising 478 square metres to DFI to enable the provision of a cycleway. Land and Property Services has assessed the consideration of £1,000 that was payable to Council in the context of what ended up being a slightly reduced land take of 377 square metres, and it's recommended therefore that this is accepted and the legal formalities be progressed subject to being responsible for the Council's reasonable legal fees. That's DFI being responsible for those. Then at 2.3, since 2009, a rolling licence has been in place with Rossori Parish Church in respect of Drumee Cottage, a property adjacent to other council facilities out in Drumee. The church has recently served notice of its intention to vacate the property at the end of October this year, so it's recommended that that notice to quit is accepted, and as the property has previously been identified by officers as an underperforming asset, it's therefore included in the next item, which is identification of surplus lands and assets. So that takes on item 2.4, members. You see at table 1 a range of assets and across the council estate which have been subject to the annual challenge function within our acquisition and disposal policy. So we've determined that those assets listed within table 1 are now surplus, and it's recommended that they be declared as such by council. And so that's for your consideration. And then 2.5, also just an expression of interest, as members will be aware, is currently underway in respect of the leasing of playing fields at Strathroy, Donnelly's Home and Ecclesville, and it's recommended that a similar expression of interest exercise be commenced in respect of 3 additional playing field sites at Brookborough, Lisnarrick and Cranny Bridge in Anoma. 2.6, DFI has informed the Council of its intention to remove a screen and concrete inlet structure at Brendrum Court in Enniskillen, and has requested permission for a temporary access across council lands at Brendrum Cemetery for the duration of the works, which is estimated to be about 3 weeks. DFI Rivers has provided an undertaking that works will be paused for the duration of any burials taking place at Brendrum Cemetery, and it's recommended that approval be granted subject to the normal provision of insurances and indemnifications, risk assessments, etc. At 2.7, then, members, there's a number of requests for the use of council property variously at Arleston Park in Anoma Bay St Mary's Primary School, Wellington Place and Broadmeadow in Enniskillen for Enniskillen Bid, and then some respective approvals for use of council property at 2.8. That was Enniskillen Castle by Fermanagh Pride, the Grange in Omagh for ITV doing some filming, and then at Omagh Memorial Gardens, Fort Hill, Enniskillen and Enniskillen Castle. That was filming by BNL Productions earlier in September or later in September. And then finally, Gorton Glens Forest Park, St Mary's College requested permission to use the Forest Park for their peak challenge on Friday the 26th of September. And then section 3 of the report, members, is just for information. So it's just use of various council premises, Castle Park Leisure Centre by the SDLP, and then 3.2, just the sealing of documents between the council and a second and third party. So members, the recommendation set out in section 9, that 9.1 that they approve those items, and 9.1 that you note the items at 9.2.
Okay, thank you, John. If there's no comments then, or anyone coming in, sorry, Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, John. I'm aware of 2 of them, and I think I'm aware of the third in the area, the land for disposal. So Asparra Gardens in Ballinamallard and Crevenage Park and Windmill Heights. I'm fairly sure I know where that is. Then there's Ferny Rise and Sylvian Hill. Those are sort of green areas within housing executive estates. The council, they're just going to be returned to the housing executive as green areas, hopefully, and not some ulterior motive. No.
No, absolutely, Chair. That's as said within the estate. I suppose these are lands that Legacy Fermanagh Council had entered into a lease agreement with the housing executive, but they are title is still housing executive, and so what we would be proposing to do is to return to the housing executive, that which is housing executive.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm happy to propose the noting of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor McCloughlin. Councillor Crawford, have your hand up?
Yes, I'm also happy with the recommendations, and I'm also happy to second as well accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crawford. Okay, if everybody's agreed then, we have a proposer and seconder, so we will move on to 6.1. It's back to John News and a bit of a good news story for the council, John.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. This is just the Director's report. It's for information. So 3 items, really, members, and as Chair has noted there, the first one, a good news story. Officers had recently submitted a funding application to DAERA, their Nature Recovery Challenge Fund, and we've recently been advised by DAERA that we've secured just over £243,000 worth of funding for a 3-year project aimed at, well, essentially it's tree planting, for want of a shorthand, and particularly looking at the planting of native oak woodland, monitoring of trees for ash dieback and essential safety and ecological assessments, and then engaging the community through a series of activities to set out in the report, things like nature walks, bat walks, bird walks, and really other activities and educational and information activities that will help to engage people with local wildlife. And so the headline from that is that we're looking at about 13,000 additional trees being planted across the district over the course of the next 2.5 years. The project will run to the 31st of March 2028. 2.2 members, I suppose the other side of that is that you'll recall the damage that was wreaked by Storm Eowyn in the district earlier this year, and I know certainly the number of trees that came down was something that was a matter for discussion. So while the first project will help to offset some of that damage, we are still continuing with the clear up operations, and there were quite a number of trees. Norwest spruce trees that came down within the cartilage of Greenhill Cemetery. So it's just we'll be undertaking clearance works at that site over the course of the next number of months, subject obviously to the appropriate licensing arrangements from DAERA. And again, the intention is that all of that work will be completed before the start of March next year. So just a note, given the, I suppose, the sensitivity of that area within the cemetery setting. And then finally, you'll be aware that the council is joint owner and, I suppose, controller of Tullyvar closed landfill site along with Mid Ulster District Council. So the joint committee comprises 10 elected members, 5 from each of the councils, and a copy of the meeting pack and papers from the most recent meeting on the 17th of September is attached in Appendix A. And again, that's just to note, and I suppose just for information, the members on that are Councillors Rainey and Roof, Councillor Potter and Kelly, Councillor Roy Little and Councillor Earl Thompson. So members, it's the recommendations in the report that the council notes the updates respects to the DAERA Nature Recovery Challenge Fund, Greenhill Cemetery, timber harvesting and site clearance, and the Tullyvar closed landfill site joint committee meeting.
Okay, thank you, John. And if there's no one want to come in on that, can I get a proposer and a seconder? Proposer to note.
I'm happy to
Councillor
propose,
McCardle.
Chair.
And are you happy to second, Councillor Crawford?
Yes, absolutely, Chair.
Thank you. So that's Councillor McCardle, Councillor Crawford. Thank you. So moving on then to, there's some correspondence. There are 3 letters from DFI relating to the 20 miles per hour at Sacred Heart Primary School and a parking bay in Irvinstown and another parking bay in Hudson Heights in Irvinstown. That's 3 different ones. So, Councillor McCloughlin, you want to come in on that? It's right now.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome the news on the updates on the parking bays. I know one of them has been going on for quite a while, and the family will be delighted that that has finally got over the line. So I'm happy to note, it's noting correspondence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor McCloughley and councillor Little.
I just wanted to welcome the correspondence from DFA with regards to the establishment of a 20 miles per hour zone at both schools. I know that students, parents and staff at the schools will welcome this. We know there's more work to be done with regards to infrastructure and pedestrian access at both the schools, but it's a welcome development and a step in the right direction. So happy to note.
Okay, and are you both happy to note all three correspondence? Both of you, thank you very much. Okay then, I haven't got any articles of any urgent and relevant business, so, and there is no confidential items to be discussed either. So if everybody's happy, that's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, and safe home. Good night.